Hello, hello. Oh, excuse me. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome along, guys. Welcome along, Judge Groovy Man. Welcome along, Ian. How are yous? Are yous not out enjoying the sunshine? Oh yeah, it's all good, all good. It's been a toasty. Hey, hot dog, how are you? It's been a toasty week up here in Glasgow. We've been getting close to 30 degrees, which might not be crazy for some people, but we're not built for it. Well, the Irish aren't built for it either. But yeah, it's unusual here, and it's still roasting. So forgive any extra noise that we get in the background because I've got the window open here, and so I don't suffocate, basically. Hey Gareth, welcome along. How are you? Okay, so I think I said it all when I was thinking about this stream, and I think I said it last time. Oh, thank you very much. Oh, subscription already. I haven't even done anything. Thank you very much, Judge Groovy Man. That's very, very, very kind of you. I think everyone's having a great time with the heat. We've had barbecues, and we've just getting out quite a bit. But it's also draining. Cycle to work a couple of days, and it's fine in the morning, but coming home, I'm nearly dead. But it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, so I think I said the last time I was on the last couple of streams, we've been looking at MUI, and we've made some example programs. Kind of worked around it. It can be tricky. It can kick you around the place because it's prone to crashing when you get the slightest little bit wrong, even with the Blitz debugger running. So this time instead, I think we've got the basis of that down anyway. So this time we're going to move on to some GadTools. Sorry, yes, I will do that. Where have I got the music? Oh, didn't realize it. Let me see. How's that? Is that better? Or is it? Is my voice loud enough? Is it a case that my mic has to come up a bit? Maybe I'll move it a bit closer here. It's gonna bang off it now. Oh, I see. Yes, sorry about that. Cool. Yeah, I'm totally not a professional setup here, so it's all running through various virtual cables and virtual mixers on the screen. So I can't hear the end result because I've already turned it down for my headphones. So, anyways, there you go. Anyway, yeah, but absolutely, let me know if you can't hear anything or if something needs to be adjusted. But anyway, right, so here we are. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start up Blitz here now, and we're going to look at doing some like the last time we made a simple little application with a couple of gadgets and you press buttons and they do things. So we're going to do something similar but with GadTools. Now GadTools compared to MUI is quite different. You've got there are a few advantages and a few disadvantages. It's a lower level setup, so you've got gadgets that are, in MUI you describe the gadget, and the GUI manager just set up the window as it thought you wanted it and adjusted the sizes and everything for you. GadTools does none of that. So it's a little bit more primitive in that way. You have to specify everything, like the size in pixels, the width, the XY positions of all the gadgets. You have to do that all by yourself. You have to open the window by yourself and handle all that kind of stuff as well. But the advantage is that it's already in ROM, so anything Kickstart 2 and up all have GadTools built in, and very, very lightweight as a result. It's even used for the early startup sequence. Hello, Javier. How are you? Welcome along. Hey, Graham's here as well. Welcome along. Welcome along, guys. Welcome along, everyone. Um, I think Graham's already done a fair bit of this with his roadie interface, haven't you? Yeah, we're looking at a bit of GadTools. So yeah, so we get started. Because it's a simpler thing. Yeah, so there's a few things I'll need to kind of show that are just a little bit simpler. I'm just going to build a simple interface. I'm open to suggestions, and we can sort of make it up as we go along if you like. But I was just going to start similar to what I did for the movie. It's just a simple window with a couple of gadgets that basically do simple things and add menus to it, and basically just giving you sort of the shell of an application so that you can actually add in the actual functionality that you want afterwards. So we can do something like open a simple text file, print the contents out to the console or something, just something to give it a bit of functionality. But yeah, that's what we'll do. But we have to start with the very, very simple stuff, and that is opening a window. Yes, well, that's the plan, to do it the same as we did with MUI, but I can't. Well, I'm not going to do it with reaction because there's no direct support for reaction in Blitz. So what you could do is open the library manually and do it that way, basically the very same ways you would with C. It's a bit messy to do that in Blitz, to be honest, and I can't be arsed. it's yeah, it's a lot of faff, and you'd be easier doing it with C. You've got a lot more examples around. It's not, you're kind of defeating the whole easy setup and easy use of Blitz that you have. So yeah, so I probably won't be doing that. But yeah, so we're gonna use GadTools, which again has the advantage over reaction that it yeah, that it's built into the ROM. So even though reaction is built into the OS from 3.5 on, and including 3.2, it's not actually in the ROM. So if you're running on a 3.1 or earlier ROM, you won't get reaction. And if you're running 3.1.4, although I can't imagine many people are, says me with a 3.1.4 machine on my desk. But yeah, so so start at the start. You have to do things in a much simpler way. Now, the good news is that for GadTools and for all the intuition stuff, that the Blitz libraries are a little bit more robust in terms of debugging than the MUI library is. So the Blitz debugger couldn't really tell what problems were. I couldn't catch problems with MUI, with that library, just because of how the whole back of MUI works. So whereas with GadTools, it's a lot better at it. So if you make a mistake, the debugger should catch it before it takes the machine down. So this is a good thing. It makes for slightly more sane development. Okay, and we have a crash counter ready just in case, but hopefully we won't be using that. And so the first thing to think about is your screen. Now, usually things will be opening on the workbench screen, but you have to have sort of an active screen object to open a window, and usually that's going to be workbench. And so what we do in Blitz to get a hold of workbench is we do WB to screen 0, let's say. Yeah, if you've ever done any kind of GUI programming on any modern system, GadTools is going to seem a bit alien. But it's so primitive that it is actually easy to use. What's difficult is getting it to be modern, if you know what I mean. To giving it sort of like things like dealing with different fonts and things like that is a bit of an issue. Okay, so but what WB to screen 0 does here is it takes the workbench screen and it assigns it the Blitz screen object 0, and that means that now it's kind of Blitz is aware of it and it's now the active screen. So the active screen object. So when you open a window, it will open on that. If you don't have that there, it will give you an error about, uninitialized screen, or, unable to, no screen available or something like that. Okay. The next thing, so you got WB to screen is an optional thing, but you can also do show screen 0, which will pop the screen to the front. So it's not always necessary. Usually you're running programs from the screen, but or from the workbench, so the screen will already be in the front, but sometimes it's nice to have that there. And so the next thing we want to do is open our window, and that is with the window command, not Windows. Window. Let's look at our context sensitive help here. So we're going to give it a window object number 0 as well. Let's just stick with 0 for this. We can put in some constants if it makes more sense later on. But constant of 0 is, an ID of 0 if we're just going to have one window is probably fairly simple. And then we do X and Y and width and height. So this is where it gets a bit, like I say, a bit primitive. So, hey, there's terrible fire. Yes. yeah. Here comes the bit for bin jokes. Excellent stuff. Yeah. Long story short, there was a night out after a Scottish Amiga group meetup. Or no, it wasn't even that. I was just on a night out, and I was texting some of the Scottish Amiga guys, and ended up kind of going quiet, and then waking up, or not waking up, but then kind of messaging them again, and so they all assumed I'd slept in the bin. Whether I did or not, no one knows. Anyways, so X and Y. So this is where it gets a bit awkward, because you have to actually specify where your window's going to open. So we can neaten this up a little bit. We can tidy it up, but for now we'll just give it like X coordinate of 100 and Y coordinate of 50. Yeah, true. Yeah, sure. Sure, a good time was had by all. And then width and height. Let's just say our window's 200 wide and 100 high. This obviously will depend on, if you're on a graphics card screen, this will look very small and up in the corner. But there's you have to kind of give it some definitions. Now, the flags. Got a. I got deja vu, and it wasn't about the bins. It was about defining these flags. But basically, the flags. If you look at the Blitz manual, it gives you all the numbers, and these are basically magic numbers you can add here. But it's a good idea for these kind of things to include flags as constants instead. It makes it a lot easier to read. And Richard, thank you very much for the follow. Thanks very much. Let's have a look at what the Blitz manual says, and it will give you. Oh, it actually gives you the names of them here, but it just gives you values, and what it tells you to do was yeah. So these are the values, and these are internal values that the OS uses for various properties of the window, but I don't think it's a nice idea to use them raw as the manual says. So we can do it as is more common in C and just general good programming practice. And they're window flags, WFLG, and then you follow them with the name of the property. So if we want it draggable, which is pretty much standard, window drag. Let's put that over here. And then we do an OR bar just to separate them, and window depth, that gives it a depth gadget in the corner, in the top right corner. and and a close gadget. There are some other properties there that I won't go for just yet, but Bit Basic, excellent choice, guys. And look, just to make it neater, right? Because these values are just numbers internally, I'm going to create a variable up here. It has to be a long type because the internal flags in the Amiga are usually 32-bit values, and so that's flags. We just cut all this out. Oh. And then we put the flags there. So it's all good company, etc., etc. It's fine. So yeah, so what's next? So we've got flags, then titles is a string. We just give it a title. This can be anything. This is what appears in the title bar of the window. Now D pen and B pen, these are oh god, these are interesting because they only really apply for Kickstart 1, and they are the detail pen and the block pen, and they are they tell the OS what to use for drawing parts of the window, and they're completely ignored under Kickstart 2 and beyond. So this is Amiga Blitz 3.8, but this so far anyway, and all this code will work in 3.9 or in Blitz Basic 2.1. I just used 3.8 because it's been set up for a while and I know it's stable. Some releases have been less stable, but I think the latest 3.9 is quite stable as well. So yeah, but this code is kind of portable across them all. But yeah, so detail pen and block pen, I can't even remember what the default values are for like a standard Kickstart 1.3 window, but I like 1 and 2 I would go with. It's either that or 2 and 1. I can't remember, but yeah, you can throw any values in there and it'll only make a difference on 1.3. And if you're using GadTools, you're unlikely to be using 1.3 because it's not built in. The last item there is an optional parameter, and that's gadget list. Now we are going to be adding gadgets to the window, but that's an intuition gadgets list, and really the intuition gadgets again are only really for if you really have to have your program running on Kickstart 1.3. They're even clunkier than GadTools. They're even more primitive, and they look ugly if you run them on 2.0 and up because all the colors are inverted. Because for whatever reason the shine and shadow pens are swapped between 1.x and 2.x. So basically, yeah, we ignore that parameter. We don't add that. So this should give us a window, and then straight away close it again. We just add an ends down here. And we're going to save this as Toost. Call it that. Now let's see if it compiles, and it won't. I'm just saying now, don't be surprised. So it doesn't find the constants, and this is similar to the movie constants that we were using before. They are not defined yet because we haven't included the resident file. So they will be under amigalibs. Instead of mui.res, amigalibs.res has all the standard OS constants and structs, and all the kind of stuff you need for programming for accessing the OS stuff directly. Now if you're using Blitz 2, you'll have to add blitzlibs in front of that. For Amiga Blitz, you just leave it at amigalibs. It knows where to find them and you don't need anything else. So now it should compile. Oh no. Okay, so let's have a look at our constants now and see. I was nearly sure it was window flag, WFLG. Yeah. Window drag. let's see. Maybe those names in the Blitz manual weren't great. They weren't right. Look at that. WFLG close gadget, not window close. So that's so that's another reason not to listen to the manual. Depth gadget. So what's that? Perhaps it's a bit off topic, but have you ever considered doing a stream for Blitz libs? Maybe a net live or something I'll make. Right, I've actually just going through the actual Blitz libs contents and Blitz itself, I suppose, as an environment. I could do, yeah. I could. That's it. I'll put that on the list. Watch this space. If I survive Nottingham, that is. A couple of weeks' time, we're going on a road trip to Nottingham to the Kickstart show. So you'll see me there, myself and Grey Amiga there will be there, and a couple of others from the Scottish Amiga group. We'll be there in the same room as the bar, which is kind of dangerous, but c'est la vie. Anyways, come and say hello. Come and talk about Blitz, or talk about Amigas, or talk about the weather, talk about Nottingham, sure, whatever. Talk about pints. Anyways, oh yeah, Garrett, we'll see you there. Absolutely. Cool. It's gonna be a hell of an event. Oh yeah, no, oh that's terrible. Yes, sorry, I didn't mean to say survivable. Like, oh, that was not the context. Apologies, everyone in Nottingham. Apologies. I meant in terms of my liver not lasting the weekend. Oh, sorry. Anyways, let's move swiftly on. Window drag bar. Drag bar is the constant we're looking for there. Yeah, it was terrible. Sorry, total professional. Yeah, okay, so look, we've got this is one of the nice features I've said before about Amiga Blitz over Blitz 2. It will give you the content, the constants, and the structs and the variables that are available in your current program. So that includes whatever you've included in your resident files. If you're coming from C, resident file is kind of the same as a header file, or an include, a header file. So, but it's pre-compiled, so it doesn't slow down the compilation as such, because so Blitz, you can define these constants, and you could even load in a C header file and reformat it a little bit. I've done that for some things, and it works the same way. But just having it there, that's basically all the OS header files pre-compiled. So it's probably not. If you're looking for a really slim executable, it's probably not the way to go. But it does. It does make things quite easy, and nice quick compilation times as well. So now it should run. So there it runs, instantly closes again because we get to end, and then the program just quits. Well, all.res is kind of a superset of the different residents. So that includes Amiga libs.res, it includes the Blitz Basic object types resident, it includes the MUI residents, it probably includes some others as well. So if you find yourself adding 2 or 3, you're probably simpler to go with all.res, especially if you have clashes. Like I think there's some overlap in some of the libraries or in some of the residents, and if you add the 2 that define the same constant, you get a some sort of error anyway, saying that the constant's already been defined. So you can't have anything clashing when you add multiple residents. So that's probably what happened there. All.res is basically a massive thing that supports kind of almost all the all the constants from Blitz, from the Amiga OS itself, from all the third-party libraries and stuff like that. So Hey, Green Tiger House. This, this is actually emulation, and I use emulation for a lot of the coding stuff because it's just simpler, to be honest. I have done coding streams on my actual Amiga, and it looks much the same because it's running on an 060. So yeah, but it's kind of Amiga Blitz runs pretty well. It's pretty slick on an 060. Sorry to disappoint you. If you look at any of the if you look at any of the previous streams where I am doing the Solus coding, I think I have all my old streams on YouTube. That's all done on real hardware because obviously you need to have the hardware there. But just for convenience, it's simpler to do it this way. So there you go. By all means, play along with your real Amiga, and yeah, there you go. But yeah, it's like Amiga Blitz runs. It's a bit slow when you run it on, let's say, an 030, especially with a big page of code or a big file of code, and it starts to get to the point if you're on an 020 that you might want to use Blitz 2 instead, because it is a bit more modern than the Blitz 2 environment. Things start to get a bit slow when you're working with a bigger chunk of code. But like with an 060, it's lovely. Especially the terrible Fire 1260, which gives a nice little boost to the compile times. But yeah, so I'm running it in emulation. I would normally, depending on what Amiga I have graphics cards in some of them, and would run it at a much higher resolution because I like to have more code on screen at the same time. But I've dropped it down for the stream so you can easily see the text. Amiga Blitz 2 actually won't. Blitz 2 will. Amiga Blitz 3 will, but it'll be very slow. There aren't really any flags for specific processors, but it does support inline assembly. So if you did want to optimize a particular routine for a processor, you can get whatever you can query whatever CPU it's running on, and insert CPU specific opcodes. Or but that's getting a bit messy. You need to be really desperate for cycles to do that. But what you can do is in Amiga Blitz 3, you can't do it in Blitz 2, but in Amiga Blitz 3 you have an optimize flag, and that gives you a couple of things. So the default is 0, which is the same as Blitz 2. Now 1 is the integer optimization. That gives us some optimizations that are 020 specific. Okay, so they won't run on a 68,000. Some code might, some code might not. It depends on how it optimizes things. But you basically you'd have to specify that they were an 020 in the requirements if you use optimize 1. Optimize 2 gives you FPU requirement. Okay, so you'd have to have an FPU on whatever if it's a 68881 or 2 with you on a separate one, or if it's built into the 040 or 060. But if you use optimize 2, you'll need to have an FPU. Okay, and you can combine them. So optimize 3, of course. You can see there up there that you can also have the value 4. That's new syntax mode, which is a different thing altogether. It's nothing really to do with the CPU, but it does change how the compiler works. I'm not going to touch on that just yet. It lets you do extra things with casting and stuff like that we don't need to touch on, and it just makes things incompatible with Blitz 2. Okay. Now, so our window probably opened there very, very quickly and then closed again. So we didn't really see anything there. All we got was the compiler saying, or the debugger saying, our code is finished. So the next thing we're going to do is put in a little event loop, and that is going to be similar to the one we had in when we were dealing with MUI. So it's almost the same actually, just the event values are a little bit different. But again, we're going to use flags for them, and so hopefully that will make it a little bit easier to read. So first off, we need an event variable. So EV is just my standard, you know, it's the one I've always used for 25 years and I can't change that now. So I am going to, and it has to be a long variable type, because it can be hey, there's Kareem, there's a group of Italians who knows nothing about Amigas and nothing about coding, but I love that he comes along all the time. Welcome in. How are things? I'm sure you are loving this heat. Absolutely loving it, whereas I'm sweating away here. So we're starting our event loop. So first thing we do is we actually have to start our loop, and we're going to do repeat until quit. Okay, and so we have to define a quit variable up here, and we're going to say that's false. So as soon as quit turns true, the program will quit. Indent that. Now, so first thing we do is we call wait event, and what that does is that puts your program to sleep until you get an event. And an event is a message from the OS to your program that tells it that something has happened, something that you're interested in has happened to the window or your to your program. And then we have to examine the event to see if it's something we're interested in or something that we want to act on. And the simplest way to do that is select and case, which is the same as a switch thing in C. Select EV. Yeah, and select, and then so case, and now the events are, let me think, let me think. Oh yeah, there we go. IDCMP close window. So IDCMP are Intuition Direct Communication Message Port messages. You don't need to know that. Don't worry about that. Just that events always have IDCMP. And I think that's right anyway. But they always have IDCMP at the start. So no, IDCMP close window. Oh, we can even add that to code. Can we? Why did it not work? I don't know. Anyways, so we take the name of the constant. Sorry, if you're wondering, that you always use a hash symbol to define a constant, or a hash symbol denotes a constant in Blitz. So it's not just in the define, not like a define, what's it called? A declaration in C. So P. Hello. So we act on the close window thing. Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? All that stuff is kind of hidden away. You can do things like C as well if you wanted to. You know, you can get everything very pointerish and stuff like that. So basically what we're doing is we're going to look and say if we have an event and it is the close window event, then quit equals true. Now, there's no break. You don't need to break a case in Blitz, so we just leave it at that. And now we should have a window that opens and sits there waiting on us to click the close button. There we go. Now, see, it's not actually active, but there it is. That's our window, and it works like it does what it should for a window that does nothing. And close quits the program. So far, so good. It is all. Yeah, and no crashes. So there we go. Let's have a look at the ID. Yeah. So the IDCMP ones are there. See, there are lots of different events you can react to. Not all of them are going to. Not all of them are going to show up all the time. So basically, it depends. Basically, when you open a window in Blitz, it gives you sort of a a safe set of flags that you want to listen for. In C, you have to set up all the signals, and that's kind of this. That's kind of done automatically for you. But you can adjust that by by adding in or removing the IDCMP flags that we look for, and that does the same thing as just adding or removing signals in C. So yeah, there we go. So yeah, we've got a window that opens, it closes. One thing that you notice there, that the window wasn't active when it opened. So there's a flag for that. And window flag activate. So we can add that on there. Whoa. Don't know why the add to code button doesn't work again. Native wheel mouse flags. It does. I believe the latest version of Amiga Blitz has had amigalibs.res updated to support the 3.2 includes, which do include the wheel mouse flags. So as far as I know, they're there, and they should also work if you use an earlier version, which adds the driver, which adds the patches for the same flags, because it's kind of, the flags came from kind of a standard which was, I think, adopted for OS4, and then it made sense just to use the same values because it already existed for 3.2. OS 3.1.4 and earlier will all need the patch, but only 3.2 has it built in. Anyway, so there's activate. I don't even know what that command does, but it looks like it's a command. Activate, and it has no help. So yeah, so it's not that's an interesting one. I have to look that up. So window flag activate, that should be us, and now our window is active when it opens. Okay, so there you go. This shows you kind of the effect of adding and removing flags. Some other flags that are quite useful. We can add sizable. Make it sizable. Now, new look menus is kind of important. It's not so important, I suppose, for programs. Basically, it's no harm to add it. I think Blitz might already add that by default anyway, but basically that just tells it Intuition to use the new kind of Kickstart 2 menus instead of Kickstart 1 style. So you get the kind of nice the graphical tick box and the graphical Amiga symbol for the shortcuts and stuff like that. So it just makes them a bit nicer. But I'm pretty sure it sets that by default anyway, and it's just ignored under the older ones. Or maybe it's actually, I think it might actually be the Workbench 3 menus, which have inverted color. You know, the menus are black background with white text on OS2, and I think they should be white background with black text on OS3, and I think that's what sets them, and it's just ignored on the earlier OS. So there's no harm in adding it, but I think it's done automatically. We'll check it in a second. We'll check it when we get to the menus anyway. But has zoom, gives it a zoom gadget. We can make it sizable. Where is it? Size gadget. Could have guessed that. Size gadget, and now we'll see that has given our window a size gadget, so we can resize it. Now, that is lovely and all amazing that you can resize your window now. It becomes a problem when you're using GadTools, because GadTools does not understand. It doesn't react to window size changes because you specify everything so explicitly. So we'll take that out for now. We'll just comment that out just for now, and we'll come back to that. But okay, so there's our window. It's working, and it closes. Now we're going to stick a couple of gadgets in there. Yeah, you can always just split it. If if you want to see everything that's on the screen, you can just split it. So oh, and you can just I'm pretty sure you can just do that. You can just that's a pipe symbol. So that's a lowercase L. Sorry, just to make it clear, that's a lowercase L to say it's flags as a long word. This is a pipe. This is the symbol for OR, and you're ORing these binary these values together, essentially. But that should work. Yeah. So there we go. So that works fine as well. Because in Blitz, sorry, I should just point this out. You know the way in a lot of basics you can do A equals A plus 2, let's say, just to modify A. Blitz, you can shortcut that to A plus 2. Kind of like in C, the way you do like A plus plus. It just kind of, it just simplifies the code. So you can do yeah, or plus equals, sorry. Like so A plus equals 2. Yeah, basically you can do the same thing with logical operators like or and stuff like that. So that's if you want to do that fully, flags equals flags or and the other flags. So but you don't need that. So there we go. I don't know which is more confusing, but anyways, that's fine. Okay, so now we need to think about our gadgets. As I was saying earlier, the gadgets are defined by hand, essentially, manually. And the gadgets, let's see, what were we going to do? We're going to put a couple of gadgets in there, but what we should do is we should use constants to make things easy. So let's say our everything needs to have an individual ID. So we're going to use some constants. We're going to set them up. So we're going to say button 1 equals ID 0. Button 2 is 1. Let's have a text gadget, and that's 2. Okay, and we just have those 3 there. So what we can do is we it doesn't really matter where you define, where you actually set up the gadgets. But what I should do, sorry, to make things simple, what you have is each window can have one GadTools gadget list attached to it. So you can change it while the program's still running, but everything sort of belongs to a single object called a GadTools list. Okay, so we're going to define a GT list, and we just give that the ID of 0 as well. But we can define the gadgets before or after, and it can be useful sometimes to have the gadgets defined in a totally separate routine, so you can redraw them later on. But for now, we'll just define them here. No, you know what? We'll define them after the window. Okay, so GT button is how we create a button, like a standard clicky gadget list. You can see there. We've got GT list is the first thing, so GT list and the ID of the button, and the next thing is X, Y, width and height, which is where things become painful. So our window is 100 high, so let's put this, let's say 60 down, and we'll make it it's 200 wide, so we'll make it 80 wide. We'll start it off 10 pixels from the left, 60 down, and width 80 and height 15. But this is what I mean about very low level stuff. Okay, now we'll tidy this up afterwards, but just for now we're going to do this just to get some gadgets working, and then I will go into if I have time, how to make it a little bit more kind of automated. So, and then text string is the um, let's just, yeah, read string. I don't know, that'll probably be too long. Let's just put it read. And I think that is, oh, there's a flag on the end, and the flags determine how the gadget operates. They set some properties like a lot of the other stuff. And they begin with GTFL, I think. GT. Oh no, GT. Let me see. Oh well, yeah. There's lots of flags there, and you see, so they basically GTMX, MX is mutually exclusive. So number gadgets, palette gadgets, screen gadgets, so list view gadgets, cycle gadgets, checkbox gadgets, and button gadgets. You see, so these are properties that belong to, you know, the different button types, and they're not really relevant for other gadget types. But what I'm actually looking for is there are also flags for where the text goes. So I think it's place text, isn't it? Yeah. So see, place text above, place text below, place text in, left and right. So that'll tell you, that tells it where to put the, see, we've called this gadget read. That tells it where to put that. So so we want it in the gadget, because then it'll show up where you actually click, which is kind of what you want. So we've got one gadget. Let's make another one. And this one's going to be button 2. It's in the same GT list, and it's 1080. Let's put this at 100 across, so it's halfway across the window. All the other parameters can be the same, and I'm just trying to remember what we called them in the other one. But yeah, okay. So now we've got two gadgets, and then what we do is attach GT list 0, or and then we attach it to window 0. Okay, now this should give us gadgets that we can click on. There we go, read and reset. Okay, and it doesn't look too bad, actually. It doesn't look too bad. And we can click on them. Now, you will notice that they have the Topaz font. There's not a lot, well, I said there's not a lot you can do about that. It's not easy to change that. You have, well, okay, it's relatively easy. You can load a font, and by specifying the font name, and Blitz will load it from disk, and it will use it for the window, for all the printing, all the text in the window, and that's fine. The problem is actually knowing what font Workbench is using, and that's a bit involved, and involves faffing about with the screen struct, which is fine. It's not that difficult, but we're going to ignore that for now. So we can see we've got nice Topaz there, and kind of the beauty of Topaz is you know what size it is, because each character is 8 by 8 pixels. So you know, because there's no checking done. Yeah, indeed. Lovely peeks and pokes and all that good stuff. That yeah. But okay, yeah. So I will cover that, but that'll come with making the kind of the interface a bit more automated later on. Now, so GadTools doesn't do any checking if your text will fit, and so it's very, like, unlike MUI, which will resize everything nicely to get will resize everything nicely to you know, take that into account. No, there. I think there are. I think there are libraries like wizard.library and stuff like that, and you can actually use them with Blitz. So I might look into that. Actually, it's not really something I've used much of myself, but it is doable. It's yeah. I just haven't used it. Reaction is kind of like the modern extension of GadTools. In certain ways, it's kind of works the same way. it's all boopsy gadgets, and so which is a particular type of gadget in GadTools. But yeah, I'm not going to be covering that because there's no direct support in Blitz. But there is support for Wizard Library. I will just have to read up on that myself because I've never used it. So I'm not that familiar with it. But for simpler interfaces, you can automate things somewhat, and that's kind of the direction I'm going with this, just to kind of show you how you can deal with things like that. But anyways, okay, so we've got 2 buttons. They don't do anything at the moment. So so what we'll do is we'll add an event for them. Now, so the next event we want is, yes, there are other libraries as well, but they have the same kind of idea as reaction and class act, that that there's no Blitz support for them. So yeah, if you're using C, you'll find that they work kind of similarly to reaction and to MUI, to MUI. So it's down to, yeah, if you have that kind of luxury, or if you're programming in C, then you have access to all this stuff. In Blitz, it's a little bit trickier to access something that isn't directly supported. So yeah, that's the story. So so then the event we're looking for is, and it's gadget up, I think, because you get an event for gadget down and for gadget up, and basically, you know yourself, when you click a gadget, you hold it down, you want the gadget to actually do what it's supposed to do when you let go of the mouse, or when you let go of the button, like that. You see? So so you can see I'm switching pages there, but it doesn't happen if you click on it and then drag away and let go. So it only happens if you let go of the button over the gadget, and that's what the gadget up event is. Now our gadget ID is you get your gadget ID with the gadget hit function. So we're going to say GH. I think it's a word. Oh, there's trouble brewing. So gadget hit, and that basically just returns the whatever gadget caused the last event. So what we'll do is we'll just that one. So we'll just print out a little message to the console saying which gadget was hit. Okay. So now, we got a debugger in the way. Let's do that. Oh, it's printing to the window. Okay. Here's an issue. So when you create, it's not a MUI window. When you create a window directly with Blitz, that then becomes the output and input stream. So, and what happens there is, so we get, that's fine. We're printing out to the window, which is great until we get to something like this situation here. Which is wonderful. But anyway, we can see at least that it's working. We got gadget 0, gadget 1 clicked. So that's fine. So what we need to do is, after we open the window, or anywhere between there and where we start printing stuff out, we need to go back to the console output with the default output command, and that redirects the output stream to the console. There we go. There you go. Okay, so now there's gadgets working. A couple of gadgets. But yeah, I was saying earlier about GadTools does not care about the text. Let's see. If we make this a bit longer, you see it just pokes out by the ends of the buttons, which is a kind of a shame. But that is, again, I'm gonna deal with that and how to actually kind of take that into account in a while. Okay, now let me see. So now to act on the different gadgets, we can do a new select. And then case. So what was our text is going to be our third gadget. So let's make a string gadget or text gadget. I can't remember which is which. One of them is read only and the other is read write. Well, GT string. Yes, so this is the one that's editable. So this is read write. So GT string. I might change that then to a string gadget just to avoid confusion. Oh, you know, we haven't saved it in a while, so let's save it there. So let's set up a string gadget. That's similar similar syntax to the other GadTools commands. They're all very similar. So GTList and string. And what's next? You know what? To make it simpler for looking at the parameters, let's open this. This again is a nice Amiga Blitz function. That's control help, and it gives you kind of a window and it shows you what you've done so far. You can also add in parameters and it will enter them into the code for you. But it's nice to just have this up on the screen without because it goes away from the title bar, which is mildly annoying. I must see if that's been fixed in 3.9 because I did raise it with Sven. Anyways, GTList string and X and Y. So if we wanted to line up with the other gadgets, we need to make it start at 10 pixels across, and we make it at let's say 30 pixels down, and the width has to be 80 plus. Oh. See, this is where it gets funky. So we need it to end at 180, and so it's 170 pixels wide, and we make it 15 pixels high as well. And now we have a label, text string. So we call this, and now we're going to do place text above, because it doesn't make sense to do place text in. So you can put the text wherever you want, up, above, below, left or right. And now the other parameters are max characters. It's just like it's a maximum how many characters the user can input. So let's just put down 20. And then default string is optional, but if you want it not to be not blank, we can put in we can put in some text there. Okay, and now we should have a string gadget. There we go. So we can go in, we can edit that, and if we go down here, oh, gadget 2 clicked. You should see that when you press enter, you get a clicked message for that gadget, which is kind of cool. Now you'll note that if you press tab to go, oh, tab does work. On some versions of the OS, like 3.1, tab doesn't give you an event, and that is the source of many headaches with earlier versions of the what's it called, HD Toolbox, where you type in the values of your cylinders and you press tab to go to the next one. It doesn't actually register sometimes. But yeah, I think that was fixed in 3.9. But anyways, there you go. So you can see you get a message saying, even though it's not actually technically being clicked, it's the same thing, is that the gadget was released, was kind of activated and released, and so you can see you get an event. So you can act on that event, and I'll show you that now. Case button 1, case button 2. Okay, so if we get an event that says someone's entered a string and pressed enter or whatever, we can do and GT get string, and you just give it the ID of the gadget, and GT get string will return the string. Simple as that. So when someone presses that, well, sorry, yeah, if someone presses enter, you can see test mess. It just reads the string. Test. There you go. So you can get that. What we're going to do is button 2 is reset. Button 1 is read. So we're going to do the same thing. Button 2 is reset. So we're instead of get string, we're going to do set string. GT set string. And why did we do this? And that should set the gadget back to what it was. So now we can see if we go to read it, it should say test message. Also happen if we do that, and then if we press reset, it restores the message that was there. Okay, so things are working nicely now, and we can see that it works as a gadget should. You can get up to 20 characters in there because that's what we've defined, but you can I think there is a limit, like 512 characters or something like that, but you know, that's it. It's fine. Okay, now so program terminated. Okay, so there we go. Any questions on that so far before I start getting a little bit more messy with it? If you excuse me just 2 seconds, I'm going to go and blow my nose. Back in a sec. Yeah. Aha. Cool. Yeah, it is very, very simple. I know MUI is a bit of a pig to set up sometimes, but when you do set it up, it's a lot nicer. You see? Yeah, basically, yeah, this is kind of yeah, the Amiga Future tutorials. Cheers for that. Yeah, this is kind of it's the basic stuff. If you're interested, there's I did a series of tutorials in Amiga Future a few years ago, pre-pandemic, and they are now available for free at amigafuture.de. There's an articles database there, and you can click on that, and you can get those. You can get those. You can have a look at the Blitz tutorials there. So some of it is to do with gaming. Some of them is to do with some of it's to do with gaming. Some of it's to do with system-friendly programming and sound and accessing files and all that. Yeah, like the article database lets you just look at the articles directly, which is kind of cool. So you don't have to know. I think they're issue like 122 or something like that, around about there. So, but yeah, there you can download them, and it's actually very cool. So basically, once, because they're nice, they're good, valuable, resources, that various tutorials that they do and all the different workshops that they do. They once the magazine's completely sold out, they'll add them to the. Thank you, Amiga Bill's illegitimate son. once they're all sold out, they add the kind of the key articles to this database, which is really cool. And yeah, I'm just gonna have a quick look at that. Yeah. Oh, and the AREX workshop. See that's at the top of the list there as well. That's also mine, just in case you're interested. There are only, I think it's only a 2-part, and they are to do with using the new. That I think that was when Workbench 3.1.4 came out, and everyone was like, "Oh wow, it's got AREX built in." But so that I did that tutorial just as a couple of things, of features that you can, or things that you can do with Workbench 3.1 and 3.9. It has to be said, 3.9. It's basically just re-implementing the 3.9 interface. But yeah, there you go. But yeah, you can see the bits basic. There's 14 parts there. Early on, it's very, very simple stuff, and then it's then it gets into some system-friendly programming, and then it goes on to games programming. Starting to get a bit dark here now. The sun is finally off my window. Maybe some respite from the heat. We'll switch on the light. Ha! Now you can see all the other mess that's there. Anyways. Okay, so we've got our gadgets. We can see our gadgets working. Now, let's have a look at maybe automating things a little bit. And I'll show you for why. If we add the size gadget, no, not at all. If you see me somewhere, buy me a beer. I work for beer. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. So you can see already that there's a little bit of a problem here, because when the window border on the side has become thicker to accommodate the sizing gadget, now the gadgets aren't nice and centered anymore. And it's kind of, they only ended up nice and centered because I'm kind of so used to it, and I kind of knew, good values that would work. But it also, you can see the problem here. Yeah, while it doesn't really do any crashy things or anything like that, it does overwrite the border. Yeah. Ah! Anonymous gifter. Well, thank you, whoever you are. Excellent, thank you very much. That's cool. Yeah, and yeah, welcome along, Ian. Good stuff. But yeah, so you can see the problem with using GadTools. A fixed size window is a lot easier to work with for various reasons. There you go. Now what you can do is you can set minimum and maximum sizes for the window. But we'll look at it in a minute. So what I was going to do was well, do I want to do that now, or do I want to do some simpler stuff like menus? Okay, well, look. we'll go with some sort of, we'll start with the automatic sizing and stuff like that. We'll do a bit of that because it's kind of, there's a lot involved, and it's sort of, each step of the way, it's kind of like dealing with another little bit of it. But we can do it step by step, and it hopefully will make reasonably good sense. Okay, default output. So what were we doing? Yes. So let's look at the two buttons at the bottom first. So we open our window, and the thing is that we can, we tell it what size we want the window. So that's 200 by 100. The problem is, and we can see it there, is that we can't easily tell the thickness of the borders. So we've got like a thin border on each side, and I kind of knew that these values would more or less work when they're used, and that's fine. And you can see here it looks reasonably centered. It's not quite actually. You can see it's slightly wider over here. But yeah, you can see it looks reasonably okay. But you know the way there, different versions of the OS might have thicker borders, especially if you use an OS 4 or Morph OS. The borders will be a little bit thicker because modern systems, and they have more fancy looks and stuff. But also if you use things like visual prefs, you can change the border thickness, and that will obviously throw everything off and start to make things. So what you need to do is you need to get the inner width and the inner height, and especially if the font is different on the window, other than Topaz, this bar will change size to accommodate the font. So you really need to take that into account. So inner width and inner height. Basically, we're sticking with Topaz now. I'll show you later on how we can actually take the font size into account as well. But for now, we're just going to say the font stays the same size, and because that works for our gadgets for now. But it always defaults to Topaz. Yeah. So but I'll show you that later. So when the borders change, especially the top border and the right hand border, if you're setting if you're adding a resize button, that they can change quite dramatically depending on font size for the system and visual prefs or any other kind of patches that you might have. Even this kind of square gadgets one, I think, or the square proportion one. So there are options in the newer versions of the OS that give it a 1-to-1 pixel ratio, so that things don't look stretched out when you don't run it on a PAL 640 by 256 screen, for example. So I will so what you need to do is you need to know what this actual gray space here, what the size of that is, and you do that with a couple of functions. So we'll do innerwidth.w is equal to, and it's as simple as that. So that gives you the width of the window internally, and it basically is whatever the currently active window is. Well, the currently used Blitz window object. It doesn't give you the size of the Workbench window if Workbench happens to be active. It's whatever the last window you did something with in Blitz on. So that'll be window 0. Inner width, it's the same thing again for the height. So inner height is equal to inner height will give you the height of the window in the inner part of the window in pixels. So now we know our inner width, we can start deciding what size to make our gadgets. So so let's say we'll set up a new type for these because that'll make things a little bit easier to organize. So we'll call them a .gad variable, and that will have we put it. This is the same thing as a struct in C, by the way, if anyone is coming from C. So it's called gad x and y and width. I think width is actually a keyword, is it? No. Okay, so x, y, width, height. So we contain all them, and that makes it a little bit simpler to deal with. And we're going to set up an array of them. And we'll just make it 5 big, so currently. But what we'll do is we can just set the properties as we decide them. Oh, sorry, we need to tell it that it's gads.gad. Okay. Actually, let's just call it gadgets just to be proper. Okay, so now we have our inner width and inner height. So the simplest one to deal with is the string gadget. So we'll do I will go to the ID of string, and to do a new type, to access the field of a struct in Blitz, it's a \. gadgets string width, and let's say we want that to be 10, a border of 10 down each side. So that's equal to inner width minus 20. Simple as that. And then the x will make that 10. So the inner width is, or the gadget width is 20 less than the inside of the window, and we offset it by 10. So now we can see if that works now. By going to our string and subbing in those values that we just and so let's just see if that works. Okay, so we're at the moment we're just looking at the width, not anything else now. And now you see, there we go, it's got a spacing of 10 at each side. But watch what happens if we have a resize flag and the border size changes. Still 10 pixels and 10 pixels. So now it is correctly sized for the window. Unfortunately, it doesn't still do it automatically. Okay, we'll cover that in a little while. But you see how that works. Okay, so now at least that one gadget is working. So now if we have our other gadgets and we want to set the width of them, and so they'll be the same distance away. So x equals 10 away from the left border, and let's see, and the width is going to be, so if we divide the window inner width in half and we take away 10 on the left and we want a thing in the middle, let's say we want to take away 15, so that'll be inner width divided by 2 minus 15. Okay, and then so that should give so it's 15 less than half the window, so that should give it enough space for a border of 10 at the left and 5 in the middle, and then the other gadget will be 5 on the other side of that and 10 at the right. Yeah, there you go. It is, when things like this start to work, it is kind of, it is very satisfying, I have to say. And when it starts, when I get to the stage where it'll resize with the window, that's really cool. Okay, so button 1. So let's copy them, and button 1 is equal to, so the x position is going to be inner width divided by 2 plus 5, and then the width will be the same. Okay, so that should work. So x is same as that, basically. And this one is that. And then the width yeah, let's see what that looks like. There we go. Okay, so now we have it that is correctly sized for whatever the border size is. So we make our window bigger. Let's make our window 400 pixels wide instead. There you go. So that's nice, because even if you don't have a resizable window, it lets you adjust the size without having to go back through everything and recode all the other stuff behind. So you know, that's quite cool to have. Now, let's deal with the heights. So the buttons at the bottom, I would say, are best with a border from the bottom. So so for now, let's just say our gadgets. Let's separate these a bit. I would say, just give them a little comment. Button 1, button 2. Okay, so these gadgets here. So we've set the height to be just 15 pixels, I think. So let's just set that up, and and let's just sub that in then. So that goes there. Oh, how did I do that? Sorry. Button 2. Okay. So now it should give us, it should look exactly the same. Yeah, that's fine, and it all still works. Cool. So now, let's see. So now we want to work out our Y position. So for the string gadget, we want that to be, let's say, relative to the top of the window. So we can just say the Y position is 10. Now, okay, I'm going to talk about something here in a little minute, which may annoy people. Well, not annoy people, but I find it annoying. It's a difference. There's a difference between Amiga Blitz 3 and Blitz 2 in how it handles this kind of thing. But I'll talk about that now in a second. But this should just work now anyway. So that's fine for that. But to make it relative to the bottom, so that the bottom border is consistent, and we want 10 pixels there. Now bear in mind, if you're in a 2:1 ratio screen, which is like a PAL, or a non-interlaced PAL screen or an NTSC screen, like if your resolution 640 by 200 or whatever, the pixels are roughly twice as tall as they are wide, in which case you probably want a border of 5 at the bottom, not 10. But that's kind of that's another thing again. That's another thing you need to deal with. But yeah, that's, I might touch on that at some other point. If someone remind me if you want to see that. Anyways, so the Y position, we wanted 10 away from the bottom, so we do inner height minus 10, and then minus the height of the gadget itself. Oh. Okay, does that make sense? So we're taking the inner height of the window. So that's the very bottom of the Windows gray space. And we're going up 10 pixels, and then we're going up again the gadget to get the top left corner of the gadget, let's say, or the top line of the gadget. Now, we actually have to subtract 1 from that, because that would give us a gap of 9 pixels, because the inner height, let's say it's 100, the lowest pixel line you can actually draw on is actually 99, so we subtract 11 to give a 10 pixel border. And for simplicity, because these are both going to be at the same level, we don't do this calculation again. We just say it's the same as the button 1 Y position. Let's see if that still works. Okay. Now that's fine. Still doesn't resize with us, but let's see what happens if we change our window size. So let's go back to a 200 by, and let's make it a big tall window, 300 pixels. Oh, I didn't update the bloody definitions, did I? We're going to stick that in there. Button 1, button 2, Y. We're not running out of space yet. So, and the text gadget is, or the string gadget is there. Now, there we go. Now you can see it's lined up with a border of 10 at the bottom. Yeah, that's an anonymous gifter there a little while ago. So thank you, whoever you are. That's great. So you can see here that we've got a border at the bottom. Now you see our next problem. That's too close to the top, so we can increase that because, yeah, for obvious reasons. But that's just simply the string gadget is the Y position. Let's just move that down to 20. And that looks like a decent gap. And if we go back to 100 pixel high window, there we go. So that all lines up nicely, regardless of the size of the window. The thing now is to deal with the resize. Here's where it gets funky, and here's where the crash counter may come into it. It's you just have to be a little bit careful with it, because basically because you can't resize a gadget. Once the gadget is on the window, it's there. That's it. End of story. You cannot resize a gadget. So what you have to do is you have to detach the gadget from the window, then erase it, then redo it, and then attach it again. Now, to be honest, it doesn't take a long time to do that. So usually if you do it like, you won't see it on the emulation, but if you do it at kind of like native speed, it'll look like the window's just redrawing anyway. So the actual detaching and reattaching and redefining doesn't take that long, and it's kind of similar length of time to resizing a MUI window, let's say. But let's do that anyway. First thing we need to do is get an event for resizing the window, because we need to know when to redraw it. We don't want to redraw the whole thing like all the time, because it'll be a constantly flickery window. So we only need to we only want to redraw it when it's important that we do. So we've got a gadget up event there. Let's go in here and do let's go down another line. Can't remember what it's called. IDCMP resize or something like that. IDCMP. Oh, lonely message. Yeah. Well, you know, I'll show you how they could. So new size. There it is. New size, not resize. So when your window has a new size, let's see if it works. Window resized. Some good tunage there. Okay, let's see. There we go. Window resized, window resized, window resized. Okay, so. But yeah, it is work. But you know what? It's not a huge amount of work. Like, you know, I've been explaining my way through it here. I know it's kind of, if you're doing it for the first time and trying to figure this stuff out, it might be a bit longer, but it's, you know, an hour or two you can get it doing that for a simple interface. When you start getting to complicated interfaces, it all goes to hell. It's, you know, it rapidly becomes too complicated, and you just use, that's why I just use MUI. But for simple programs, this just works. Okay. What are we going to do here? So what we've done is we're after getting the inner width, inner height. We're doing some calculations there. What we can do is we're going to move all that to a separate subroutine, or we're going to put it in a function or in a statement, okay? And that's going to be our redoing the thing. Yeah. Let's do that. Okay, so calculate gadgets, and you have to give it curly brackets even if we don't, well, because it's a user-defined statement or function. Even if we don't give it parameters, it needs to have brackets, kind of like C, but we use curly brackets in Blitz. And let's do that. Calculate gadgets, end statement. And because this looks a bit, well, let's cut that out of there. We'll put it before we start doing all the window stuff, okay? Back up here in the definitions of our program. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to indent that code, because indenting is good. And control and the arrows give you a nice indent, a block kind of thing in this editor. I think it does it in the Blitz, in SuperTED as well, in the Blitz 2 editor. Okay, so now let's just see if it does the same thing. So we'll call calculate gadgets there, and it should just work as it was. Oh no, what we also want to do is make some global variables, because global variables, grand. Or not even global, but we need to access the variables outside the scope of this. Shared gadgets, and I think that's actually all we need, isn't it? Let's run it and see. Nope, array not yet dimmed. Oh yeah, because if you want to share an array, you need to give it brackets to show that it's actually an array. You don't have to give it an index or anything. And there we go, still working. Cool. Now, if our window is resized, what we can do is we detach the GT list, and we do calculate gadgets, and that should redraw them. Now, from memory, this doesn't, there's something else to this. Oh yeah, I think you have to clear the window, because inner CLS will clear just the inside part of the window. If you do full CLS, it will clear the border and everything, and you have to redraw them. So inner CLS clears just the inside gray area. And now let's see if that works. Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. Detach GT list. We need an ID there. Okay, now let's see. Are we going to get a crash? Okay, almost working. Almost working, but you can see progress. Why is it not clearing inner CLS? Do we have to wait for the frame to refresh or something like that? Let me see. Or is it the other way around? Yeah. Good for the special effects, all right. No. Now see, these aren't... Oh, hold on a second. That shouldn't happen, because it's like it's adding the new list. Why is that? Oh, yeah, sorry. It is adding extra gadgets. So the original gadgets are still there. So... Yes, here is the way to gadget or to crashes, because it was redefining gadgets and the window already had them attached. So they got new pointers, so you ended with duplicates and triplicates and overlapping gadgets, and it was all very dangerous in there. So we actually freed them. So we dropped the gadgets as they are, completely erased them from memory. There we go. Woohoo! Oh, okay, well, getting there, getting there. This business is slightly funky. There is a way around that, and yeah, this is what I was going to talk about earlier. Okay, so there are some differences with GadTools, how it's implemented between the two systems. Between the two systems, between the two versions of Blitz. So in Blitz 2, the 0, 0 coordinate of the window is here, okay, and that's the 0, 0 coordinate of the window. So it's exactly it's the same pixel as the screen position of the window. In Amiga Blitz 3, the GadTools library has been updated to treat that as 0, 0. Now, there's a flag in Amiga OS for doing that, but it uses a bit more memory, and it's a slightly funky. It essentially creates a floating window in front of the window, puts the gadgets on that, and it means your borders can never be overwritten, which is very cool. And it also means calculating the gadget positions from 0. Whereas in Blitz 2, you have to calculate the gadget positions from here. Now the problem is that means that the code isn't really portable between the two. But it also means that if you set up that flag, which is called the Gimme 00 flag in Amiga Blitz 3, everything actually appears a little bit further over and further down than it should, because 0, 0 is already moved by that much. And then so it gets moved again, so 0, 0 ends up being here in the window. So if you need to start subtracting window border widths and stuff like that, and it gets a bit messy. So for the moment, we're going to just ignore those glitches, okay? But yeah, so you can see here, yeah, we've got a nice system now that will let us resize. That I wonder if I was the first person to have that problem, and I did curse a lot. Yes, it was a pain in the hoop. It was not good. I remember like absolutely tear my hair out, wondering why the hell things are not working, because I upgraded to Amiga Blitz 3 kind of when it came out years ago, quite a long time ago, and it was like, oh, this is an amazing environment, but all my code, I've made really elaborate interfaces in GadTools, and now I can't recompile them in Amiga Blitz because they just fall apart at the seams. And I did end up compensating for them in other ways, but yeah, it's a bit of a pain, a big pain. But anyway, so this actually looks quite good despite the glitches. It's doing what it should. Because but basically I set up a gadget for, without the 0, 0 flag setup, I set up a gadget for position 0, 0. And if you do that in Blitz 2, it actually overwrites the border. So let's say you set up the read gadget and XY was 0, 0. It would actually show up and overwrite the border here, like that. Which makes it a bit weird and kind of broken effectively. But under Amiga Blitz 3, it shows up in the corner and it's nice and neat and doesn't overwrite the border. I was like, okay. Anyway, let's put it on here anyway, just to show you what I mean. I think that's what it's called. Now, isn't that a bit pants? Even though they are adjusting the actual whole thing. So you see, at least we're not getting the glitches on the border, but you have to compensate for, so you have to, for every position, you have to subtract away the height of that border and the width of that border, which is just annoying. So and that's something that only has to be done in Amiga Blitz 3. So using that flag will get you glitch-free, perfect alignment in Blitz 2, but not in Amiga Blitz 3, basically. So, but yeah, so basically, it's just once you know the problem is there, you can work around it. It's easy enough, and I'll show you how to get some properties like the size of the border and stuff like that in a while. Okay. So we will get rid of that and deal with our things just for a moment. So I'm just going to show you a problem, another problem to anticipate. So see, we're resizing, it's redrawing. What I'm going to do is actually search, bear with me just a second, I'm going to set the CPU speed to slow, basically. So you can see it does, you can still see it redrawing, but that's that's normal. That's on A500 speed there, or A1200 speed. So it's kind of like you expect an application that has a resize ability to behave. And it will actually be faster than that if you turn off the debugger. Let's turn off the debugger and see. Oh. Sorry, magic menu is very fast. Let's turn off the debugger and then pilot. And let's slow it down again. So you can see it's actually reasonably quick to react there. Yeah, but you know, this is the thing, is we didn't really mind interfaces that did look like that. Like let's have a look at another interface here. Well, this will take a while to load because it's running on slow. But yeah, you see, it's kind of normal. That's just what we put up with on back in the day when we had stock CPUs and stuff. If you were doing heavy GUI stuff, it just took that long to redraw things. Yeah. Yeah, so there you go. We'll speed it back up again to modern speeds, let's say. But okay, so yes, so the next thing was a problem. Your lack of age, is that it? Yeah. But yeah, so here's the problem, right? If we've edited that text, see the way it comes back? Because what we're doing is we're completely deleting all the gadgets and recreating them from scratch. Yeah. So yeah. See, so we're completely recreating the gadgets from scratch. So it's after recreating the text inside it as well. So we have to do a little bit of faffing around just before that to get. So what we need to do is we need to do this. We just need to save out the contents of the string first. Oh, yes. Sorry, I see that's what you're saying. Oh, yeah. That's... Well, yeah. Yep, absolutely. That would work. It's just to clobber your program, just to, you know, just to remove the annoying redraw. Yeah. It would work. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to do that. Well, see, I can't switch CPUs on the fly without restarting the emulation, but I'll show you how that would work. I think it's just CPU. I can't remember. Cool. Good night, Ian, and thanks very much for dropping in. There we go. There we go. This is how you get your CPU from Blitz. And then we can just do There you go. That is it. Pretty simple. We can even do it in even. It's also kind of probably a very frivolous thing to do, but yeah, there you go. You can get your CPU, and then if it's not a 68,000, then add the size gadget. And it works. Well, it will work in theory. Let's just make sure I do still have my size gadget. Yeah. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. I don't know what's happened here. But it has crashed. Hard crash. Clock has stopped.
Oh dear.
There we go. Crash count 1. Oh, don't know what happened there. Let's see.
Oh dear.
Yeah, first crash. Not too bad. Not too bad. Oh, that was a bad one. It took out the resident OS files and everything. Oh. Let's see what happened there. How long ago did I save it? I did save it in flags. Surely it's not because of that CPU shenanigans, is it? Maybe, well, let's see. Maybe I didn't have the compiler switched on. So we still have a resize. No, it's fine. I don't know what the story was there. Yeah. But look, I don't know. It's working fine there. We can make an executable out of this and try it on 68,000 later. Oh, just like all Blitz programs, you should always have the WB startup statement at the top, because that adds the code for starting from Workbench. So if you don't have that, it's a straight crash as soon as you run it. You get the program suspended. You know. You have to do that because of the communication that happens with Workbench, and Blitz does all that for you. All you have to do is add that line somewhere in the code, and I usually add it like the first thing. Okay, but yeah, we can make an executable, then we can reboot as a 68K and try it if we have time. Let's see. Anyways, okay, we got loads of empty lines here. Whoa. Now, some silly stuff there, but okay, so yeah, we have a problem that our text gadget gets reset. So what we should do is so before we detach it, you can never do anything to a GT list while detaching. Actually, you know what? It might actually be quicker to refresh if we get rid of that V wait. That's the V wait is vertical. It waits for a vertical interrupt. So I thought that might have been why it wasn't redrawing properly, but if we get rid of that, it will actually refresh a bit quicker. It slows down because the more gadgets you have, the slower it is to recreate them all and all that. But yeah. Anyways, window resize. So so the message in the box is going to be stored in that string. And what we should do is before here, we're going to define that. And test usage. So there we go. And there's our string gadget and our default contents. So now it'll be recreated with whatever the contents of that variable is, whatever the contents of that variable are, and we set that just before we get rid of the GT list. So that should now keep what we type in here. Hello, what is wrong with me today? Okay, and resize. There we go. There's our text kept. Cool. so that's working. Now, the last thing is to do with the font. So, font-wise, font stuff is a little bit funny. So what you have to do is you have to load in the font as a Blitz font, and then use that on your, apply that font to your window before it does any gadget stuff or anything like that, and then whatever font you load will be used for the gadgets. So let's try that. So so we're going to give it we're just going to load let's have a look at a font. What's just a random font that everyone should have, just for the sake of this. Well, Helvetica 15. Helvetica.font 15. Let's see. Well, we're not going to go with 15. We're going to go with 8 for now. Actually, I should have a look at that and see what size there is. There's 9. Let's go with 9, just for something similar to the Topaz size. But just to show you how it works, font size is 9. You can use 8, of course, but it'll scale it from 9 and it'll look pretty ugly. And now it's load font, I think, and this is like all the other things. You need a unit. You need a like an object number. So 0. So this will be font object 0 because you have multiple fonts loaded at the same time. So fonts, and the Y size is Y size. That'll be a word size. Okay, and now we've got our font loaded. It's in font object 0, and then when we open our window, we do window font, I think. Yes, intuit font 0. Okay, and there we go. You can see there that we've changed the font, and it's now Helvetica size 9. Okay. Now we are using Helvetica size 15 on the workbench screen, but we're just I'm just showing you the basics of loading a font. So, but now that we have the font, and that the font is loaded, what we can do is we can use that in our calculations. Font Y size. So now our gadgets. Ah, yes. Very good, very good. So our gadgets are about, let's say they're twice the height of the font, or like not even twice the height, but let's say we'll make them, the string gadget especially, let's say is the height is font Y size plus 8, well, it was 15, wasn't it? So 8 plus 7. We'll do plus 8. Just, no, plus 7 to keep it the same proportions. And we'll do the same for the other gadgets, because they were all 15 as well, weren't they? Now, that should give us exactly our oh, what? Mismatched types. Okay, so let's we'll just define these earlier on in our code, will we? Yeah, we'll because it's thinking this is a new declaration here. So we'll do our font stuff here. Okay, so now it looks pretty much the same. And we, of course, we can type, and it's all proportional fonts and all. So that's all fine. There's our 20 characters worth, and it will resize just fine. Glitches notwithstanding. Okay, now So now if we change that to 15, things should change and look quite nice. The what's happening here is this is actually getting quite close to the top border there. So what we should do is use the font size for spacing the first gadget as well. So string Y position, string gadget Y position is just set to 20. So instead of that, we should do it 12 plus font Y size plus 12. Okay. And now we've got the same kind of gap at the top. The problem here now is the gadgets are actually getting too big for the window. So what we need to do now is calculate a minimum win size. And let me think, how do we set the window minimum size? I can't remember. Let's look at the Windows lib. Size limits. Sets the limits that any new windows can be sized with sizing. After calling the same, any new windows have these limits imposed. So size limits. Okay. Whoop. Size limits. Minimum width. We're going to say, let's say, 150. And the height has to be, let's say, what are we saying? There's 4 lines that have text, so 4 times, and then plus the borders, which is 20 or 30, let's say. Okay, and then the maximum size. See, the pain that you have to actually set maximum size, but yeah, but bigger than the screen. That's 640. We'll just do 640 512. You can actually get the screen size and use that, but yeah, fine. So now, okay, this is setting it. This is not taking the border sizes into account. So let's do that. Oh, you know what also might be happening is because it's, I think it's ignoring that because it's actually starting smaller than that limit. Yeah. So let's go back to doing well 40 because of that, and then what's going on here? Okay, size limits. What am I missing here? Minimum width, minimum height. Let's just try putting it in manually. Let's just make sure we're getting things right. Yeah, well, see, it's a good point actually. It probably should have been 3 because we've got the label of the text gadget, we've got the text gadget, we've got the buttons, and then we've got the space in between, which is which I've just put down as 40. So I wonder if you just have to set the size of the thing bigger than that. Okay, so now it's working. 200. Let's see if we go back to that one. Fonty size. Let's see. Oh, it's even worse. Oh, look at that. Times 3. Okay, so maybe that was working and we just have to go much more in the space thing. Okay, there we go. Okay, so what we have is 3 times font Y size plus 60. So we'll actually give that 70 to take into account the window border and the blank space we want in between. Now, there we go. There's our window, other than the glitches, as I said, resizing and having a sensible minimum size that's based on the size of the font. Hey, 3D Code Warrior, welcome along. Welcome in. How are you? How are you? We are just yeah, we've got our nice resizable GadTools window here. Ignore the glitches. Yeah, we'll deal with that maybe the next day. But there you go. That works quite well. The only thing left is, oh yeah, fair enough. I probably won't be too much longer myself anyway. But thanks for joining in, Graham. And sure, I'll talk to you soon. Yeah, so the only thing left is we're loading whatever size font we want, but that might not be the same size as the as what the workbench screen is set to. So we have to do some. This is where things kind of get really complicated. But size limits. Let's set that. Yeah, I always really like Blitz, and this is kind of it's you know, there's Amiga Blitz, which is kind of the modern. Well, I say modern. It's got the an updated IDE, which is actually quite nice compared to the Blitz 2 one, and it's open source now as well. But this is quite this is fine. Anyways, right. So we've set the limits of our window to that based on 3 times the font size plus 70 pixels and a minimum width of 150. So now basically what we have left is being sensitive to the font that's on the screen. So we can set that back to 9, and you'll see that all the gadgets and everything will have shrunk. And we can also go and see that the window can actually go smaller now because the font size is smaller. So there we go. That all looks quite good. Now, getting the font that's actually used on the screen is, yeah, like I say, this is where we have to delve into the OS structures and things like that. So we see here that we've gone, and so basically the font that's used is a property of the screen. And if we go and actually let's make this window a bit longer so we can see it. So in our structs, if we go down and look at a screen, a screen struct, PQRS, you can do this. Let's go in here and look at that. We've got things like useful stuff like window border left, top left, right, and bottom, which is quite nice. So we can actually add them to our calculations if we need to, but we shouldn't need to, basically, because we're in Amiga Blitz 3, it's calculating the 0, 0 thing. But here we have where's it gone? Font. So in there we've got a pointer to a font, which is a text attribute struct. So let's go and look at this first. So if we're assigning WB to screen 0, the screen 0 object, to get the details of that into, you know, because this is a kind of an OS struct and this is a Blitz object, we need to sort of bridge that gap. So first thing we need is a pointer to our screen. So this is where it starts to get a bit like C. So we're going to call it start, and that's the screen type, because we found it here. It's .screen, and that's in the amigalibs.res file as well. So that's the struct. That'll be in the intuition.h header file for C as well, I'm nearly sure. But anyways, so that's it, screen, and that's equal to peak.l Now, what we're doing here is we're getting the address of screen object 0. The first long word inside that will give us the address of the Blitz object, not the OS object. Very important to remember that. but the first long word in the Blitz object is the address of the OS object. Okay, so you peek that address, and that gives you your OS struct. Okay, so once we have that, we can do things like look at things like let's just for example, we've got our screen there. Let's look at the width and height. Just to show you that we've got this. And that's no, there's case sensitive, so just bear that in mind. And just for the demonstration of this, we'll do that. You can't. Well, you see, no, you have to have it. You have to have it as a Blitz object to be able to get this information. You can't just do the default screen. But what you can do is, what I've done here is I've assigned, instead of opening my own screen, I've assigned a Blitz object to Workbench. But you can also do that with oh no. If you do find screen 0, that will just take the first screen it finds, the first public screen, and assign it to object 0. So that's kind of the same thing as default screen. So you can do either of those. Find screen will find the first public screen, which is usually Workbench anyway. But in this case, it will actually be the Blitz debugger screen, and it will open the window there instead. So we don't really want to do that. But find screen 0 finds the first public screen and then assigns that the object. So you can do that and then apply the same technique. But we'll leave it at the Workbench for now. But just for the sake of demonstration, just to make sure this works, let's have a look and see. Screen width 640 by 512. So you can see there that is very, very unlikely to be anything other than the struct we're looking for. But as with all things Amiga, you should really make sure you have a valid pointer. So that's kind of important, because if you start doing things with that pointer and for whatever reason it's failed here, like if there isn't a screen 0, you'll get 0. You'll get 0 into this, and if you start faffing around with a pointer that points at 0, it's crash time for the Amiga. Like it's like it's absolute, you know, poking fingers in brains stuff. So it's just dead. So usually it's good to have a little safety net there for if for whatever reason it goes wrong, just bail out and don't touch that pointer anymore. Okay, actually I will come to that about the window in a minute as well. Okay, so we don't need that there anymore, so this will work fine. We have a pointer to our screen. The next thing to do is get a pointer to the font. So once that's there, we know our font is in here called, and it's labeled there as a pointer font to the font. In Blitz, pointers are slightly different, and even though that's what the autodocs say, and that's how you would do it in C, it's not how it works in Blitz. So so we'll do oh no, that's not what I wanted. Type into that window, Rob. This is the text attribute type is equal to, so you leave out the star there because a star isn't a valid character for a field in Blitz, and but that will give us the pointer to the text attributes for that screen. Okay. Again, you should probably check if that's 0 and then get out of there if it is 0, because if you do anything with that, it'll instead, and it's not valid, it'll completely shaft the OS instead of you know, but that's what it'll do. Okay, it's a null pointer. It's a bad news in the Amiga. But let's have a look at this struct. So if we double click to go into here, we can see the name, Y size, style, and flags. Oh, yeah, anyways. So, again, it has a star in front of it. That's a string pointer. So we can't directly access that with the star field. So it's just a... that offset looks funny. Oh, sorry. No, it doesn't. It's just because I ordered them in alphabetical order. Okay, so yeah. So it says it's a byte, but it's actually not. It's a string pointer. So it's a long word. It's 4 bytes long. You can see the offset for the next one is 4. Okay, so let's have a look at that. So let's get what did we say? Font name is just font string. So now what we'll do is we'll just and to do that we do a peak string, which does a kind of a memory read until it hits a null character. So if you're familiar with strings in C and strings kind of in the OS, they're null terminated. So what we'll do is we'll look at this is just a nice shortcut that does a peak, and it peaks byte by byte until it hits a null character and puts the result in a string for you. It's a nice thing that Blitz does. Yeah, it makes things easier than let's say the 8-bit basics, which didn't have that feature. Okay, so we're looking at the font pointer, or the text attribute pointer, and text attribute name. And that will be font y size. Fonty size is font and text attribute y size. So that should be them. Let's see. Just so we can, for the demonstration, let's see if we get results we expect. Helvetica.font size 15. Now, we know that's probably legit because I've set the default up here. So what we'll do is we'll change that to something like that, and let's run it, and we get Helvetica.font size 15. So now we know what our screen is using. This is all working out fine. So now, even though we have this set to times and size 9, which is where we were before, watch what happens when we run the program. Ooh, haha, what's gone wrong here? So font y size 9. So we've got the right details there. So what's happening? Where are we loading our font? Yeah, because we're loading our font up here, of course, before we get the details. So undo there. So let's run it again, and we should get, there we go. Now our font matches Workbench's font. No matter what you set Workbench to, it will match that font, and it's scalable and spaced out accordingly, and all seems to work. Now, I think that is a good point to leave it, because I am just dying here with the heat, and it's been a long week. It's been a long week, but okay. But are there any questions on that code so far? I think the next stream, maybe next week, I'll deal with the glitchy thing and sort of dealing with the difference between Blitz 2 and Amiga Blitz 3. And there was something else. There were a couple of other things that people mentioned, and that I mentioned earlier that I will have to look at. But yeah, if you have any questions, fire away for the next minute or so. Yeah, but thanks very much. Let's see. Let's see what happens here. who is on. I'm just going to see. We're going to raid someone at some point. But no, thanks very much for coming along. Now, we've got a few people. Oh, Hoffman is doing some software gaming, and why use GadTools? Oh yeah, indeed. It's a bit of a pain, but it just shows you that it is possible to create actual decent interfaces. You know, it can be done, and there are programs out there that do it. I've written some of them. Well, if you look at SMB Mounter, there are two versions. There's a MUI version and there's a GadTools version, and the GadTools version does all this, and it's pretty heavy going. ADFer does it as well to a certain extent, and that's quite a simple interface. So that I did. So that's kind of ADF Blitzer, but I redid that to make it font sensitive because it never was, and give it a couple of other features like that. But yeah, so there you go. So okay, right. But cool. Okay, well, what we'll do is, we will leave it there. So, I will. We make some notes. I will probably stream maybe next week. I'm not sure if I will next week actually, because my mum is coming over from Ireland and is going to be babysitting, so I'm going to be out. But the next time, whenever I have the next stream, I will cover some of the other stuff that we missed out there, and there you go. Okay, well, listen, thank you very much, everyone. I'll put this code on the Blitz Basic thing, Discord, and just a quick shout out for the Amiga Tool Jam. Doesn't necessarily have to be Blitz Basic, but you know, this shows you that it can be done. And there you go. Right, well, let's go and raid Hoff then. Yeah, okay. Let's go. Right, and okay, well, thank you very much, guys. And listen, I'll talk to you all soon. Where's my button here? Yay, there we go. Good night.